All right. Let's try that again now. All right, so the three steps, the audio folks, the video folks, and the text-based folks, all in 10 minutes. But I'm going to start in the middle just to keep things simple. We'll give you the idea of how do I do it easily and quickly in that 10 minutes. But then there's some post-production kinds of things that you can do too. There's pre-production things. So what can I do to make it just a little bit better even? And Seth, I see you're out there. You've been working on this as well. So if you've got some ideas and some thoughts, feel free to share those when we get to that spot. But really what I wanted to do was the basics. What do I do with Brightspace and how can I get this done very quickly and very easily? So we're going to jump right into Brightspace. And in Brightspace, what I have put together, and this is kind of what I see kind of being that student piece, is I've got a finished Trifecta video, the Trifecta podcast, and a text file. How do I create those all quickly and easily? Now, the first key is you've got to have your lecture recorded. That's not going to be your 10-minute process. But once we start putting that stuff in, then I can start adding in. So let's go ahead and hit upload and create. I'm just going to hit upload and create here. And one of the things that I found, I kept pushing adding or uploading the video or audio. That has a pretty limiting capability in it. So be real careful about if you want to add a video, a lot of people are going to assume I upload a video. There's some features there that I'm hoping Brightspace incorporates in that are missing. So we're actually going to create a file instead. So I'll hit create file. And we'll do this as Trifecta 2, video 2. And now we're going to use that infamous insert stuff. And when I hit insert stuff, we want to add a video note. Now there's some upsides and downsides to video note. One is, and Spencer and I will argue, it's not a downside. You're limited to 30 minutes. You know, some of you want to do a 4-hour video. You're going to need to break it up to get this. But by putting that together, oh boy, I didn't think about allowing the video to work. All right, well, I'm going to cancel that and see what happens here real quick. Yeah. All right, we're going to upload a file. And when I upload that file, I can go ahead and choose a file. And we're just going to go out to my pre-recorded video and grab that video and use it. Okay. That'll take just a second to load. But that's the biggest trick, is choosing that video note instead of the add a video. What that will do on the next step, then, if all goes well here, I should have experimented with this on the sharing the screen, sharing it on Teams, and trying to do this all at one shot gets to be a little more interesting. So we'll see how it goes. So we'll give it just a second. Any questions along the way? Any things that you're going to bump into with a video note versus a video? So check through, all of the video notes will stay resident in your class. So if you put it in as a video note versus a video, it doesn't disappear when you transfer the files. So that's all good. Okay, so now once we've moved that file over, I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And this is where the difference comes in. When I hit next, I can go ahead and put this as Trifecta 2. Choose a language. And now in the video piece, I don't get this. That's the one big difference in my mind, is I get this automatically generate the captions when I do a video note, but I don't get that when I insert a video. So I can automatically generate the captions from the audio. Click that button and then go ahead and hit next. We need to take just a second to load that, but it's also, while it's doing it, loading it and starting to do the captioning. So it puts that all together. So in a sense, in that one step, I've just taken care of both my video and audio folks, well, video audio combined, and my text folks. So really easy to knock that out quickly by using a video note versus video. Okay. All right, once we hit that screen, I can go ahead and hit insert. It's going to continue to process that, so we can come back at any time, but that black screen there is just fine. It's actually a checkpoint for me to make sure I'm doing it right. Hit insert. And then the key point, I get this is about the time one of you is going to walk in with a quick question for me. And I forget to push save and close. So make sure you hit that save and close button. We'll save and close that. It will continue to be this black screen. But now I have both the video and audio as well as the text generated for my entire video. All right. Any questions so far on importing the video? Pretty straightforward. Big magic there is use video note, not video. And I'll be after the Brightspace folks to say, put this same feature back in video because it's ridiculous not to have it there. But we'll keep working on that.
Actual bad videos, I just
Mark?
YouTube
Well,
videos.
just a second. I got Josh asking a question here.
Well, the other video option is that where you page or YouTube video or something like that. Is
That's that route. So the question is the add video. I can upload a video. I can put a link to a video. I can do a lot of different pieces in that. So there's a lot of other functionality there, but I really like being able to just grab my video, shove it into video note and go. Allison, you had a question?
Yeah, I think it's similar. I'm curious. So I can create a video in any format to put into video note. So if I'm using Uja or Canva and I have slides and I'm doing a recording of myself and I download that as a video file, then I can put that in video note. Okay.
Exactly. What I love about this process, thanks for asking that. That's perfect because I jumped past one of the key pieces. The cool piece of this with the audio or the video and the text, you can use any device you want. Okay. This is all done right in Brightspace and it's ready to go. So you don't have to have a Mac or an iPad or whatever. You can do that process on any device with any video that you created out there. There's some standard video formats, but any of those tools like Canva are going to create that video that you can upload. Okay. Any other questions before I move on? All right, so that's the video, and we'll come back to the audio in a second because it's already done, to be quite honest. And then, so we can go back to content now. We now have that Trifecta 2 video added into our course. Now, here's the one step where it's a little bit different. I was hoping to get this all done, but I found out that Brightspace doesn't extract this. But we're going to jump out, and this one's the one where I do use the iPad. I'm sure there are tools on the PC and all kinds of places to do that, and I'd be glad to help people find it. But I'm going to use a tool called MP3 Converter. It's free out on the Apple App Store. So we're just going to open MP3 and go back to the home screen. Come on. Jump out for just a second and restart that. So there we go. So now, once I'm in MP3 Converter, I can just come down and push the add. And again, any of those video files that you create, I can go out to the camera roll. I can go out to my files. I can do whatever, and I simply import whatever I want from my camera. I already have that part done, so I'm just going to hit cancel and save us a little bit of time here. But you can import that file in. Any questions on that process? Pretty straightforward. Now I'm just going to go ahead and click on the video that I want. And for the most part, just follow the steps. But here, the standard output on the free one is MP3, which is what we want for a podcast. And convert is right here. So just hit the convert button. And it converts that and just essentially rips the video out of that format. And now I can simply hit export and send that to my files app. Hit save. And I now have that out there ready to go. Go back to my course. And now I can upload. And in this case, I can, since I'm not worried about the text. And actually, you don't want the text in this case. Because if you're starting to add text, not all MP3 players are used to seeing the text as part of that MP3 file. So it may or may not mess things up for students. So don't add the subtext in on an audio file. Choose video or audio. We can upload the file, browse to find my file. And in this case, we're going out to files and recents. And there's my Trifecta 2. And I just import that in. And now I have my audio file created. Hit save. And now what I've done is I've created that second Trifecta video. So I have both the Trifecta, audio. I have the Trifecta video. I have the Trifecta audio, so students can use that as a podcast. We'll come back to some of the processing pieces because there's some thought about how you might put that together. You are going to want to think about how you record your video because it's a little different than if you're listening to a podcast. And we'll open up a discussion about that here when we get back to the pre-processing side. But there's our two pieces that are ready to go. All right. Now, the advantage of doing the video in a video note instead, and I pulled my hair out for a very long time on this, trying to figure out why I couldn't do it. Video versus video note. When I do this as a video note, this nice little gear down here that nobody ever messes with, when I click on that, I get an extra option. Actually, a couple different options, but I can actually view the transcript. And when I hit view transcript, it actually will play my video with the transcript right next to it. So very easy way for students to get both the video, the audio, and the transcript all in one spot if they want. I can go ahead and hit play. Hello, today we're going to talk about what I'm calling the trifecta method of presenting your material. That's going to let you win 3 ways. So now the nice part about this is one that's giving me the highlight through the text as I go. Those folks that like the it's giving me the information, but I can also navigate like to read the text. We're going to be able to do all 3 of those in less than 10 minutes. Okay, so we can pause that. One of the other cool parts with this now, I can actually navigate this lecture through the transcript. So I can read through the transcript here on the side, and anywhere I click is going to jump me to exactly that spot in my, in that lecture. So if a student wants to jump back to something to use that, they can navigate, go back and repeat, re-listen to all of those fun things. So you get the text, the video, and the audio all in one spot if you want. How many of you had seen that one? Is that new to folks? Did you seen that, Alice? Not many people that I've talked to have played with that side, so that wanted to make sure people were aware of it. But then the other nice little piece in this little blue text that nobody can see up in the top, you can actually go back and hit download, and you can download the transcript. And now you've got your transcript ready to go too. So I can copy and paste that transcript over into a word processor, and I can edit to my heart's content. I can just take it and paste it right into Brightspace and be ready to go. So lots of ways that I can work with moving back and forth through that process.
So Mark, I do have a question on that. If I've come to the conclusion that I don't speak as clearly as I think I do. And so there's some, my last name is always can chew, like I can chew food. And, just several other, sometimes comical, sometimes not so comical errors. Can I fix this and re-upload it?
Absolutely. So what you can do with this, I can just do a select all, and I can copy that. I can take it over into my favorite word processor, create a new file, and paste that in. And now I have that entire piece right in my word processor.
Right, but then can I add it back to the video so that when they
You can-
click on that, they see the right spelling?
You can, so you can paste that back in as a script. You can use specific words if you want to synchronize it so that you make sure that it stays synchronized. So there's a lot of things that you can do above and beyond. So if you
Okay.
want that, one of the things I noticed in here was ums and uhs. So I did a quick find on ums and uhs and said, just convert them to nothing. So I could get rid of those. But the other thoughts that you could do, you could actually take this and maybe you wanted to add some more visual pieces. So even though I'm an audio or a text person, I'd like to see some of the screenshots. I'd like to see some of the slides. I'd like to see, you can edit and paste and do all of that. And then just put that back in as a text file. So one of the things that you might think about, in addition to the sub or the script itself, and I wouldn't want to load the file with the pictures back in as my script, but I can then take this edited, let's call this edited file. And save that. So now I can take that and go back to my Brightspace. Find my content and go to the Trifecta piece. And now I could upload that file right back in. So if I just did upload files, my computer, and upload and recents, there's my edited transcript. I can just add that right back into Brightspace. And now those students have access to my edited transcript for that video as well. It's not synchronized to the video, but if I'm wanting to put some slide pictures or steps 1, 2, and 3 or things like that in there for people to be able to quickly see, it's really kind of up to me how far I want to take that video or that, excuse me, that text and edit and change it and do what I want for those folks that like more of a text-based environment. So I really see this as a great step-by-step for us as we're doing step guides in Create. Is many of you say, I want to see the text version of the instructions. Well, I can take a transcript of this, put it up there, but I can do steps 1, 2, and 3 and put a screenshot next to it and pretty quickly put together a complete set of documentation all in text. So lots of ways to kind of play in that environment. So any other questions on kind of the basics of Brightspace? I thought this was a really handy way to just grab something and quickly put all 3 versions out there for folks to be able to access. Why would they want a podcast? Right, and in the car, doing the homework, all of our students, I give them a bad time all the time and say they all have nothing else to do but your classes, and they all have assistants, right? So what are they worried about? We all know people are busy. So there are lots of ways that you can use this. These MP3s that this process creates are very easy to download right into their phones. So now, of course, they can play their lecture from their iPad through their car, but I've done that a few times and I'm tempted to watch the video. It seems to be an extra step to try to get all that hooked together, everything else. If I can just download the audio, then when I'm mowing the yard or scooping the walk or cleaning the house or whatever it is I have to do, I can plug in my phone and listen to that and not worry about trying to look at the video while I shouldn't be driving or something along those lines. So some really handy ways just to think about how do I provide different tools for my students to work with that material.
You know, Mark, I'll just add that I like doing podcasts because if I don't have a slide behind me, I'm more deliberate in how I explain things and talk about things. Because we've all been trained that the slide is the framework and your discussion is the story, but you're counting on them looking at the slide. And I find that I do a better sort of presentation if I don't have a slide. And I love listening to books on tape, like when I'm cleaning the house or making a meal or something like that. And so, you know, I don't even have to be in the car. I, as a student, if I could listen to a short lecture while I was doing things around my house without having to go, oh, there's something on the screen I have to look at, like see this table, that can be really helpful to a student.
Exactly. And that was kind of led me right into the next piece is you do have to be careful about your lecture. Because if you just simply say, see the slide behind me or see this image, and you turn it into a podcast, that's going to be pretty useless to students. So you really have to think about how am I going to describe what's there? I really turn myself into an author when I think about it. If I'm going to write a book, I can't say, see the picture. It's what are you seeing? Help describe that, give them a visual idea of what they're looking at. And so, like you said, it's a lot more deliberate. So thank you. That's perfect. Any other thoughts on that? All right, so that kind of leads me into the what I can consider the pre-production. So in pre-production, you can use the tool that you want. I tend to use iMovie. And this lets me put all kinds of different pieces together into what I want. But as I do this now, I really want to think about a lot of different things that I'm doing, because this can't just be a movie that I'm putting out there. It really needs to be thought about as a production as well. So I want you to watch for some things, because I purposefully, actually just didn't have time, but purposefully didn't do some things here too. But when I start this video, what happens with a podcast? Anybody listen to podcasts a lot? Alice, you say you listen to a lot and you're shaking your head there. What makes a podcast different than just listening to a lecture?
Catchy music.
What's that?
Catchy music.
Catchy music at the beginning, okay, is one that Josh commented from here. Is it just at the beginning?
Interspace. Yeah.
Yep. So Alice, I see you shaking your head. That music's all over the place. And I
Like
think
through
that's one of those things
transitions, yeah. Mhm.
transitions. And what I saw the other day at one of our creative conversations as I was reading the material is it's not only a transition, but a signpost.
Mhm.
It tells me where that material is going to be. It lets me know that there's a transition happening. And one of the other pieces I really liked out of that same piece was doing a graphic organizer before your lecture, so students see exactly what's going to happen. So today I opened it with just a really simple one. Here's the Brightspace basics. Now we're moving into the pre-production strategies, and then we can talk about the post-production strategies. So student knows what that lecture is going to look like and knows what to expect. And if you look at the graphs of what happens during a class, you get a lot of attention at the very beginning. And then as things fade out, students start to fade, and then there's a lot of attention at the end again. If you can make it so that you start your class more often, I think we're going to pick up more attention. So when I get into this area here of Brightspace is going to pick up, going to start to wane a little bit. And then when I hit pre-production, we're going to get people back in again. And then it's going to start to wane out a little bit. And then we hit post-production, it's going to open back up. So if I can make it 3 different lectures instead of that one lecture, it's going to help with some of that retention, I think, as well. So going back then, looking at that pre-production, here's our catchy music.
Hello, today we're going to talk about what I'm calling the trifecta
The video
method.
that we're going to show, then the graphic organizer, and then instead of just jumping in, here's that transition again. That signpost of where are we at. What else is helpful about that? Any thoughts? Where are my podcast folks? What could you do here with this?
It
Well,
pulls you back in. That's one of the things, my daughter was listening to a video, a podcast, and it was for a class she's taking. And when there was an important point there, it actually had a bell that rang. which remind me of Pavlov's dogs, which is beside the point. But you know, it was like a cue, like pay attention. What I'm going to say is important, and she loved it. Not, you know, so it is interesting what people might like about that sort of call your attention to pay attention again.
Any other thoughts?
Well, I think it's also an opportunity, depending on how long a podcast is, that it's an opportunity for a pause there, and it's easy to then get back into like the second part. So often it'll be like, you know, there's going to be 3 main points, and I'm talking about each one, and there's this pause in between. So if I know, it's kind of like the end of a chapter, like, okay, I know I can pause here and come back to this. And so I think it really depends on how long your podcasts are. You might not need, or it might not serve that purpose in a shorter podcast, but in a longer one, it might.
Absolutely. So what would you do to make that easier? One of the things that I love in podcasts is that I can jump to that spot. So you can put chapter markers in. So this would be a great spot to think about your chapter markers. So you're kind of pre-planning some of that post-production stuff of, okay, if I put this in here, this is a nice breaking spot. The students are going to want to come in and be able to push a button or jump right to that spot instantly to go back to that. So if they know that they can jump back to that, that really encourages using that as your breaking point. Looks like you're leaning in there, Allison. Anything else to add, or just taking a look at your iPad screen? All right. So again, that whole go ahead.
No, I was just saying I got an email that I was responding to. That's why I was leaning in, multitasking over here.
Not a problem. But the nice part, like I said, then you can simply put those different markers in, and now you've pre-planned your post-production piece. That makes, to me, the lecture feel more like a podcast and the podcast feel more like a lecture. The more I can make those kind of meld and use the power of both of those, the more effective I think this is going to be. So really thinking about those podcast ideas, doing interviews with folks, doing all those things that you would do in a podcast, think about that as you're planning your lecture, and use some of those tips and tricks that they're using to make the podcast interesting. Use those in your lectures. So any other questions on kind of the pre-production side? All right, let's move over to post-production then. We've been playing a lot with YouTube, and YouTube provides an awful lot of power in what you can do with your videos afterwards. For those of you that haven't played with it, I would encourage you about, you can, for free of charge, build your own channel. So we've been working on Brightspace on the Create side to actually build our own Create YouTube channel. And it's been pretty enlightening as to what kinds of things you can do out there. So if we jump out to YouTube, we have our own channel that's ready to go. So we can go out and see the content from our channel. And you can use this much like you would a Yuja environment. You've got unlimited free storage out there on your YouTube channel. So you can start building your own channel. You can build your own playlist in this. You can manage an awful lot of your video in ways that you can't do even in Yuja. So let's take a look at this video here.
In one of the articles that they said for us.
So you can jump in and see your video. You can go out now and do all kinds of interesting pieces. So it's got the same idea with your closed captioning. And you can actually go in and change the language. So you're seeing Vietnamese there. You can change the language of your subtitles to just about any language you can imagine. I'm guessing there are probably 150 languages, 125 of them I've never even heard of. So amazing ability within that, and we'll show you that in just a second. But you can bring that in. You can also export its translations in as well. But the magic to a lot of this is the analytics button over here. And this is amazing, the kinds of things that you can get for detail in this. So I can see who's watched it, when they've watched it, what's going on with it. I can hit details, and this is a really powerful piece here. So I'm going to show you first what it does, just watching it, and then we'll go back to that. When I open this video, you'll notice that there's a description down below in that video.
That they said for assignments, instead of grading on how well you do.
What I was able to do is just go in and edit my description and put in the time code that I wanted and where in that, what that meant. So now I can go ahead and click on one for the 1 minute spot.
Discussed
And
before.
it jumps me instantly to 1 minute,
Food for thought.
4 to 5 minutes
Thanks.
and 36 seconds. So I can instantly jump around in my video. So I can provide those stops for students when they're watching it visually. And it is as simple as simply going out to analytics, clicking on the details, and in details, you can go out and watch your video and put all of your marks. So at 10 minutes and 35 seconds in, I want to talk about a key point. And that's all there is to adding that mark into my descriptions. And now it's in there as well. If I go back to my video, save the changes first, go back to my video and click on that now. I have the 10 minute and 35 second
Hi,
spot.
it's Ashley.
I can jump to that spot instantly within my video. So some really easy ways to put your chapter markers into the video that you're working with. What would I do with this now? You could turn around and embed that right back into Brightspace now as an embedded video, and it's going to have all of those features ready to go for you as well. So some really key points in there. Yeah.
Copyright issues that can come about based on, I mean, it's free use for education, obviously. Or when we put stuff on YouTube, say you're using images from your textbook or like direct quotes from your textbook, things like that. Could YouTube come around and like spot it, remove the video? I had personal experience when I ran my clinic and created YouTube videos that audio files that I took from like SoundCloud that were supposed to be royalty free eventually were claimed, and then my audio was wiped on my videos because they're like, well, this is actually copyrighted now, it's not for use. So are there any concerns with that in utilizing YouTube?
So Josh was asking about copyright issues. Yes, you do have to be careful because YouTube does look for copyright violations in the videos that you post up there. So be very careful about things. And he mentioned he bought some free stuff, or I should say bought free stuff, was utilizing free copyright free stuff, and it later got pulled back in as copyright. So YouTube wiped it. So you do have to be aware of and pay attention to copyright, both current and changing as you go through the future kinds of things if you're posting to YouTube. But that realistically, we should be aware of all the time, but I know it's challenging to stay on top of that all the time, especially as it changes over time. So just be aware and ready for those kinds of things, that they are looking for those kinds of violations. So also in analytics, if I go back over to analytics, you see all kinds of different errors. So I can actually do a lot of editing within my video. I can add comments into my video, but the one we were looking closest at is subtitles. And I can actually come back into subtitles then. And in the same way that you were seeing before, I can go ahead and edit my transcript. So I can see the entire edits here, and I can go in and edit all of those. I can either see it as a text file, or I can edit the timings. So if I want to adjust where that fits in the timing or those kinds of things, I can certainly grab that. But this is a great spot for me to go out and grab that text that I want to work with, because it's a lot more appropriately formatted. So I like grabbing it from YouTube instead, because then I have more flexibility in what I do within a text document. If I start putting together different things, it's a little bit easier to deal with. So those are just a few of the ideas that I had as far as pre-production and post-production, putting together your projects as well. Any thoughts or questions along there? Was this helpful? She's heads nodding, great. These are a lot of things that I found that were just tools that we were already paying for that are available. But a lot of them were kind of shocking to me, is just how far you could take some of this and how easy it was to pull those different pieces together. Like I said, within about 10 minutes of taking my recording, I had all kinds of different ways that I could provide students with different resources. But a lot of it, I think I want to even turn back into the students for orientation, because the transcripts and those types of things, if you're just putting the transcripts in, clicking that button takes a fraction of a second as a video. And if the students are trained to go back in then and look at that transcript along with the video, there's nothing else you have to do. So now we can make it just a fraction of a second kind of thing.
So I have one more question, Mark. I just want to follow up on your comment about if you only do an audio and no video, then you cannot do the closed captioning. Is that what you said?
You can be careful, and it's really kind of interesting to watch. And so I've seen it happen to folks. If you do the closed caption and it's part of your audio, not all audio players are capable of dealing with that extra text information.
Oh,
And so it may not load on all students' devices. And I'm always looking to say, how can I make sure it fits in everybody's stuff?
got it.
And so you want to be careful about using that. The cool part with the Apple stuff is on the phones, that text will actually show up on your phone as you're listening.
Mhm.
And the way it's published there is it's considered a lyric. So you can actually look at the song lyrics as you're listening to the song, which I need to do a lot of the times. My hearing's not all that good. So I think about the bathroom on the right instead of the bad moon on the rise, kinds of things. So it's nice to have that text there to know what the lyrics really are to the song. But the lyrics to a lecture or the lyrics to a podcast are simply the text that goes along with that. But not all readers are capable of doing that. It's getting better and better, but do be careful about including the text in to what you're thinking as a podcast, because of where it might be played. I would say 90% of them are going to be fine. It's those outliers and that 10% that I always worry about. How are they trying to play it? So just a word of caution there, and know that that might be an issue. Any other questions or thoughts? All right, well, hopefully that was helpful. Like I said, a way to quickly grab and generate 3 different learning methods, do it in 10 minutes or less, and be